Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the sometimes confusing world of corporate filings. Today we are diving into Tapestry Inc.'s latest report. Tapestry, you might know them better by their brands like Coach Kate Spade and Stuart Weitzman. It looks like they just refinanced their debt, so maybe they are hoping to stay in fashion. Before we get started, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below. Feel free to join. So what's this report about? It's an 8K, which companies file when something important happens that investors should know. In this case, Tapestry has a new credit agreement. Basically, they've taken out a new loan to replace an older one. Let's get into the details. The big news is that on May 22nd of 2025, Tapestry entered into an agreement to get a new revolving credit line, which is like a credit card for big companies, with a limit of 2 billion your credit card, with better terms and a higher limit. This loan isn't just from one bank, but a group of banks and financial institutions. Bank of America is acting as the main manager, which they call the administrative agent. So what is this $2 billion for? Tapestry can use it for everyday expenses like running the business, investments, buying back shares of their stock, paying dividends to shareholders and other general needs. It's basically a financial safety net and a way to fund growth. The credit line could actually get even bigger. Tapestry can increase it by up to $750 million, bringing the total to $275 billion if they meet certain conditions. This gives them even more financial flexibility. They can also borrow money in different currencies, including euros, British pounds, Japanese yen, and US dollars. Part of this credit line can also be used for letters of credit. These are basically guarantees that Tapestry can pay its bills. They are often used in international trade and other business deals. The total amount of these letters of credit can't go over $125 million. They also have something called swing line loans, which are short-term loans they can get quickly from the main bank, Bank of America. The total amount they can borrow this way is $50 million at any time. Of course, Tapestry has to pay interest on the money they borrow. The interest rate depends on a few things, including the type of currency they borrow in and Tapestry's financial health. The better their finances, the lower the interest rate. They also have to pay fees just for having the credit line available, even if they don't borrow any money. The interest rate they pay is tied to something called the gross leverage ratio. This is basically a measure of how much debt Tapestry has compared to how much profit they are making. The lower the debt and the higher the profits, the better. There is also a fee Tapestry pays based on how much of the $2 billion they are using. The good news for Tapestry is that they can pay back the loan early without any penalties, and they can also reduce the amount of the credit line if they don't need it all. This gives them more control over their finances. This new credit agreement comes with some rules that Tapestry has to follow. These are called restrictive covenants, and they limit what Tapestry can do with its business. For example, they can't take on too much debt, they can't easily sell off big parts of the company, and they can't make big investments without the lender's permission. One of the most important rules is that Tapestry has to maintain a certain ratio of debt to earnings. This is another way of saying they can't borrow too much money compared to how much they are earning. Specifically, their debt cannot be more than 4 times their earnings, which can go up to 4.5 if they make a big purchase. If Tapestry breaks these rules, or if something else goes wrong, like they can't pay back the loan or they go bankrupt, it's called an event of default. If this happens, the banks can stop lending them money and demand that they pay back the entire loan right away. It's also worth noting that the banks that are lending Tapestry money have also done other business with them in the past, and they might do more in the future. This is pretty common in the world of corporate finance. This new credit agreement creates a direct financial obligation for Tapestry. In simple terms, they now owe the banks $2 billion and they have to pay it back according to the terms of the agreement. Now, looking at this filing as a whole, it seems like Tapestry is taking steps to secure its financial future. Refinancing debt is a common practice for companies, and it can often lead to better terms and more flexibility. However, it's important to remember that taking on debt also comes with risks. Tapestry will need to carefully manage its finances to make sure it can meet its obligations under this new credit agreement. One thing to consider is the current economic climate. With interest rates on the rise, taking on a large amount of debt could become more expensive in the future. Tapestry will need to factor this into its financial planning. Overall, this filing is a pretty standard example of a company managing its debt. While there are always risks involved, it seems like Tapestry is taking a responsible approach to securing its financial future. Alright, that's our breakdown of Tapestry's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.